Hello and welcome to this edition of Techie Topics. This is Wendell Odom, and today we'll look at a late stage topic for IP subnetting for the CCENT and CCNA exams. In particular, how to analyze a network to determine if there are any problems. And in this video, we'll focus on figuring out whether the subnets as deployed are both unique and non-overlap. They don't overlap their ranges of addresses. So you should already know things like how to find a subnet ID, how to convert masks between different formats, how to find the range of addresses in a subnet before getting to this video. So what we'll do here is talk about topologies of routers and look at the IP address and mask on those routers. From there, you can then find the subnet ID for every one of those subnets. Now I'm assuming you know how to do that math coming into this video. Then when you see those subnet IDs, you can tell whether those values are unique or not. And that's pretty straightforward once we get into it. The little bit more subtle part is finding if an overlap occurs. Now to do that, you also need to find the range of addresses in each subnet, because it could be that subnet IDs are different, but the range of addresses in those subnets overlap. So let's take a look at an example. Let's say on the LAN interfaces on routers R2, R3, and R4, we assign them IP addresses 10.1.1.1, 10.1.2.2, and over on R4, 10.1.1.250. Now notice I haven't put a mask in there yet. But for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and put a /24 mask in. Now if you don't know what the /24 is yet, go back and study up for your subnetting stuff and realize then that that converts to a 255, 255, 255.0 subnet mask. So we've got those numbers there, and if you're familiar with IP addressing and subnetting, you're probably already seeing that there is some problem between the R2 and R4 LAN subnets. So if we do the math over here on the left and figure out the subnet ID, you'll find that the subnet ID is 10.1.1.0 with that mask of /24, and over off R4 we have the same subnet ID, 10.1.1.0, again with /24. So that's not going to work. In particular, the reason it's not going to work is poor router R1 up there. When his routing protocol learns these routes, he'll know about two different instances of subnet 10.1.1.0 and be confused. So that's the first problem. We'll fix this problem by simply reassigning R4's IP address to something far, far away like 10.100.1.250 with that same /24. Now other problems can exist as well that are overlaps that aren't so obvious. Let's for instance say let's not use that same mask anymore, and R2 and R3 still have addresses 10.1.1.1 and 10.1.2.2. And let's just say for the sake of argument that R3 keeps using the /24, but now we change R1's mask to /22. Now why might you change from a /24 to a /22? Well, just say the network engineer needed a larger subnet. He was running out of addresses, so he said let's back it up 2 bits and give us a lot more host addresses. We're never going to run out then. Well, if we calculate the subnet IDs for these left and middle subnets, we'll end up with 10.1.0.0/22 on the left and 10.1.2.0/24 off R3. Now at first glance it appears that these are unique subnets because they're not the same number. However, if we calculate the range of addresses in these subnets, you'll see there's an overlap. In fact, the high end of the range of addresses in this left-hand subnet ends in 3.255, as you see here. Of course, that overlaps with the IP address over on R3 already. R3 subnet ends also in 10.1.2.255. So the entirety of R3's LAN subnet is inside the range of R1's LAN subnet. There is overlap. So when that occurs, it will of course cause routing problems, because now when packets are addressed to that overlapping range, should router R1 forward those down to R2 or over to R3. So anytime you're taking a look at an IP addressing problem on these tests and you see a topology and you've got router IP addresses, one of the first things you want to do is check to see whether the addresses are unique and the ranges of addresses in those subnets do not overlap. Hope you enjoyed this Techie Topics. Talk to you soon.